been a while since my last video. I've been doing a few other things to keep me busy, a few things to do with beer and brewing. I've got myself a little fermentation chamber, bought a very cheap chest freezer off eBay, cost me a tenner, plugged it into an Inkbird thermostatic controller. So I've got the freezer itself plugged into the cooling side of the socket, and a heat pad that I already had into the heating side, and it seems to work very well for me at the moment. I've updated the way my taps for my beer are arranged. Previously I just had them stuck in a couple of pieces of timber cobbled together. So I've done a little bit of a neater solution here, with a few bits of scrap timber painted in blackboard paint, so at least I can write next to the tap what's on tap at the moment. And I've got a drip tray I've installed there as well. Been taking my eldest son to his gliding club. Been doing a bit of research into an 18th century criminal, and a bit of archery. It's been a long time since I've loosed any arrows. And back into brewing. And this current brew, I've been using Magnum and Citra hops. Hops that I've not used a great deal before. I previously did a brew with Summit hops, Citra hops and Tettnang, and the result was interesting, but there's not quite the result I was looking for. So I've replaced the Summit hops with the Magnum, and just for now I've dropped the Tettnang just to see what flavours I get from the other two. I get started out as we always do with our brewing water, so this time I treated it as I've been doing previously with a fraction of a Campden tablet to remove the chloramine, gypsum and Epsom salts, 100 grams of aromatic malt, 500 grams of crystal malt, steeped for around 20 minutes. 2 kilogram bags of light malt extract went in. I then brought the wort up to a boil. I boiled it for around half an hour to get the hop break occurring. I then added 20 grams of Citra hops and 20 grams of Magnum, and then boiled for a further 15 minutes, adding Protofloc 10 minutes before the end. Chilled it down and transferred to the fermenter. Found that I'd lost more volume than I'd thought. I'd started with 16 litres of brewing liquor and ended up with only 12 litres of wort. Checked the original gravity, which obviously confirmed that it was stronger. Sprinkled in my ale yeast, lid on, and into the fermentation chamber. Which brings us back to today, where I'm having a bit of a taste and deciding how to dry hop the beer. So about a week into fermentation, and taking a sample just to see to what degree I should dry hop this beer. It's quite a smooth, rounded flavour already, actually. Nice level of hoppiness, not exceptionally bitter. Bearing in mind I used all late hops. I didn't put any in at the beginning of the boil. I just thought I'd see if I could get the most flavour out of them by sticking a larger amount in for the last 15 minutes. But that is very tasty. So I'm undecided whether to use Magnum. I've read a few things. I've not used Magnum as a in dry hopping before. I've read some people say they didn't like the results. It was a bit earthy, but I do know that some commercial brews do use Magnum. I certainly use Citra hops, and see how that pans out. But I shall have a bit more of a think and consideration before I commit myself. But as the fermentation is slowing down now, it won't be that long before I'm going to stick the hops in, about the same time that I'm going to leave it for its diacetyl rest. Oh, and it's time to catch up on the rhubarb sparkling wine, which I have left in the back of this cupboard. Out we come. So for the best part of a year, the rhubarb wine has been in the champagne bottles, lying on its side, on its lees, which is pretty much as long as it needs. Shouldn't really need that long. So what I need to do now is to riddle the rhubarb sparkling wine, which will consist, well, the point of riddling is to get that sediment that will be lying down the side of the bottle in to the head of the bottle, the neck, and that's by very gradually increasing the angle of the bottle, with the head of the bottle down and the base going up very gradually over a few days or weeks. And as you do that as well, the bottle gets twisted. I think that's to try and dislodge the sediment to make sure it goes down towards the neck of the bottle. The approach I'm going to use, I read a while ago, I think there's lots of ways doing it, but I'm going to do a fairly slapdash approach anyway, is to do 180 degrees one way. I think the technique is meant to be a good sort of slow 180 degrees one way, and a flick back 90 degrees the other. Whether that's the best way to do it, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to do. Right, so screw out of that, remove the lid, and here we have our bottles. I laid them down, not all facing the same way, so all I'm going to do now is to make sure they are facing the same way so I can tilt the entire box together. Naturally, because I've done this all very carefully, measuring everything and judging it properly, I have every confidence that I won't get any exploding bottles. So, here we go. Well, okay, the precaution's okay, isn't it? Right, so we can see here, this is facing the opposite way to the rest, so let's turn that around if we can. It's a bit tricky because this box has been designed to have them laying different ways. So if I can pack that out, need a bit more packing here. Let's have that there, and then I'm going to pack the rest of it out with some more bubble wrap, so hopefully the bottles won't roll around too much when I tilt and rotate this. I'm wondering if I can actually see with a light where the sediment is in here. Not sure you can see the sediment there, but it is there laying in the bottom of the bottle. Apparently the reason for the technique of very gradually increasing the angle of the bottle rather than just completely upending it so all the sediment just settles into the head of the bottle is, if you do that, apparently the two grades of sediment, the thicker and the finer, will fall at different rates, so you get the thick sediment right by the cap and then the finer on top of that, and as you're trying to disgorge the bottle, I believe it's more likely that you get the finer sediment back into solution, affecting the clarity of your sparkling wine, apparently. And if you do it gradually, I guess they're meant to stay sort of more mixed together, forming a nice solid plug, therefore disgorging nice and simply. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to try this technique and see how it turns out. What I mustn't forget is which end are the tops of the bottle. So it's this end where all the tops are. Right, so that's packed down with various bits of bubble wrap and plastic bags, so hopefully these bottles won't roll around too much. There we go. There we are. There we go. Right. Obviously easier said than done with the twisting technique when it's in the box. Obviously if I was doing it properly I could have and manually I'd have a riddling rack and I could do each bottle as I said, you know, the 180 degrees then the 90 degrees. But it's going to be a different kettle of fish in here. Because you're talking sort of 180 degrees, then 90 degrees, and then I've got to do that sort of leaving it at an angle like that. I believe some of the automated processes in the champagne area do have all the bottles together in big racks, and the entire rack is rotated and tilted. But obviously not that sophisticated here. But this approach will hopefully do. I just need to make I just need to think as I'm doing it, make sure I actually get the angle right, and then we shall leave that before I rotate it again.